welcome back to the Nelson Martinez Spanglish Hour, a northern New Mexico kind of thing, you know. And I hope you remember me from Action 7 News many years ago, but can't sit still for a while. So we're podcasting from the North Valley, mind you. So it's the broadcast podcast of the North Valley. And we have some special guests from time to time, but the top shelf guest today, and I mean top shelf, the best of the best, is a good friend of mine, sincere, and known her for, 30 years at least. Please help me welcome a great story in our New Mexico history, a great person, what can I say? Noberta Fresquez, thank you for being with me and this beautiful episode of, the New Mexico Podcast Center. I don't even know what I'm saying because I'm so excited.
Thank you so much, Nelson, for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here.
You look happy too.
Yes.
I know you have so many stories to share. So that's why I thought, man, I got to sit down with you one-on-one and share those stories because so many of your fans are definitely, fans and friends. Más friends que fans? Who knows?
Yes.
Pero, bárbaro, you know the incredible people in the world that are so talented. For example, this fabulous coordinator of the best music in the world, mariachi music for one, has been in the threshold, if you will, in the midst of a talented group of people worldwide. For example, the guy I really loved and was impressed with is the head of what they bill themselves as the greatest mariachi in the world, Mariachi Vargas de Tecalitlan, and you're just one-on-one talking with Pepe, is that his name? Martinez.
At the time that I first introduced myself to them, or I introduced them to the public, it was Pepe Martinez who was was a musical director. Yeah. But it was Ruben Fuentes that was the owner. He had gotten the permission to be like the co-owner of the group. So, but Pepe was the musical director.
Isn't that cool? Well, anyway, I saw that repertoire you two had, and from there, it just gosh, how many people have you met? I thought, many people. And the one that I remember is Lola Beltran, my God. What a prize. You will always be in my heart for that favor, because what I did once when I knew Lola was coming in for the Hispanic Cultural Night, right? Heritage. And I thought, Lola's coming to town. So I always talked to Noberta. And I said, Noberta, well, what are you doing? I'm at the airport picking up Lola. And I said, she's in a day early? Yeah, she just wanted to, come in early and shop or something. And so I get this wild idea. And hey, I said, hey, why don't you tell her to come to the house? My sister's here making enchiladas, blah, 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 blah. Maybe she'd like to. And if you didn't have the faith in me that you do, she wouldn't have come. And here the limo drives up with Lola coming out so eloquently. I'll never forget that. Yeah. Thank you again.
I'll never forget that evening either. I'll never forget how nervous you were about her. Did somebody give her a paper plate and you were up? It was a fun night, and she loved it. She enjoyed it.
Oh, man. And then what happens after that? She says, Nelson, cuando vayas para México, me dices, aquí está mi número. Mm-hmm. When you go to Mexico, here's my number. Call me. Whoa. And so sure enough, 2 months later, a friend of mine who she met and loved as well, Reina. Uh-huh. Ya se me olvidó. Sorry. Pero no, so there we go. As her guests, called her from the hotel. She comes over, picks us up at her Lincoln in Mexico City. DF, le dicen, no? Mm-hmm. She wants to take us to Cuernavaca.
Oh, beautiful place.
She has another house there.
Yes.
Or had, yeah. So let's go. And there we go. And guess what? In the middle of the road, I didn't know. I was the front seat, Anthony was in the back, Antonio. And we sang together just a tad or two of Cerca del Mar.
Oh.
Le dije, me gusta esa canción como lo hace usted. I love the way you sing the song.
Right.
Y lo quiero poner en un CD que estoy haciendo. Pues a ver, me dice, mientras que iba, cántamela. I go, oh, geez, what did I just say? Really.
In front of Lola.
Yeah. So I started Cerca del Mar. and she kicked in with harmony as we drove. Anthony's my witness to that. I was, oh my God, it was just wonderful.
Yes.
I mean, that's a blessing.
Exactly.
And you have experienced it many, 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 many times with people like that, no?
Yeah, yes. Well, that was the same year that I introduced Anthony. And he came in his best suit to meet her in the dressing room at the Coliseum.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, myself and other people that were witnessing it, we just started crying. He got down on his knees and took out all these gifts and presented them to her. And his mother was with him. He had brought her. It was so moving, Nelson. Oh, memories galore.
No kidding. That's a wonderful little story there too. I do remember when she did come to the house, Lola Velta.
Yes, that.
Oh, was that cool or what? And then the parents to Gerardito
Yes.
came along with her because he was performing that night.
Yeah, he's also the father of Pedro Fernandez, the big star.
Oh, fíjate.
Yeah.
Wow. So, yeah, I remember they came over to have some dinner with us. That was so special. But you know what I was so embarrassed about? I clearly remember. I was on the horse. Remember that thing? I came out, almost fell off the horse. Lord have mercy.
Yes.
Well, then at the end of my little caballo blanco thing, I was to introduce Gerardito. And I was blank. I said, ahora, estimados amigos, con mucho gusto, por favor, la bienvenida. And I finally said, ayúdenme. I can't remember. I think I said. It was so embarrassing. But anyway, we got through it. What a kid, huh?
Yes.
I'm sure he's a full-grown man now.
Oh, yes. I got to see him when he was close to 20. Handsome young man. He looks a lot like his brother, Pedro.
Pedro. Y todavía está Pedro going strong?
Pedro's going really strong. Gerardito, not so much. He sort of, I think, disappeared.
Oh, see.
He went as far as he could. And
went his own way.
Pedro's huge, still huge. Yeah.
Huh? Wow, he does. Remember his voice? Kind of have to play a song or two on the Nelson Show. Aquí, oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll have to give that a sampling. Pero I remember when you and I, as we became close friends, I know I was in dire need of lessons. This was a mariachi wannabe, quite frankly. My focus was the news, of course, and folks. But I was a disc jockey first, and that was in Española, with KDCE. Thank you very much, Cadice, and all the Gonzalez family and all of that. Got me a great start. But anyway, so I was there and started falling in love with the mariachi music I was playing. Todos, Javier Solis, Lola Beltran, of course.
Vicente.
So as I played them and I got the next break ready, I couldn't help but sing along with it. Me cansé de rogarle, whatever the song was. And I would sing it. And so it got in my head and I always loved it. So here it is at Channel 7 and I got the opportunity to, go to a studio and with a trio and try De Colores. It's a simple song, but still. And then I thought, well, I better take a lesson or two. And I did here in Albuquerque. And I can't remember her name, sorry. Pero de todas maneras, just a little warm-up lesson, per se, to warm up the vocals. But then you said, hey, there's a man by the name, le dicen El Cura. And he is, and I said, El Cura. Oh, yeah. Me dices tú, he's with Mariachi Vargas de Tecalitlan for 40 years, 30 years, no sé qué.
He was the mega voice on all the recordings for 40 years.
How lucky. And that was through you. So here we go. Fast forward. We get on an airplane. Together we went to Chico Rivera, or algo así que no.
Pico Rivera,
where he lived with his lovely wife.
Yes.
What was her name?
Altagracia.
Wow, you got a good memory. Altagracia, High Grace.
Yes.
Beautiful name. Anyway, so we went to their house. We were guests. He gave me about a 2-hour lesson,
And she fed us.
Oh, and she fed us.
Yes.
My God. So I was blessed in that regard, for sure. I mean, blessings come in every direction. No?
Yes.
And he gave me the one-on-one. Unfortunately, he had a poor student because I'm trying to remember all the stuff he taught me in that short 3 hours, 2 hours. But the main thing I learned was that, wow, if you think you can share your talents, share them.
Yes.
The recipient may not be ready for that or whatever, but
Yes.
something soaks in, I think.
Yes.
The sympathy, the simpático. Bien
And you
simpático.
know, I think the United States gets credit for taking advantage of the talent of all these icons in the history of mariachi, like Heriberto Molina El Cura, because we were the ones here in this country that recognized and brought them forward for people to get to know who they were and what they did. Like songs that we thought we credited only the singer with, they were actually composed and arranged by other mariachi musicians. And so Mexico has, well, especially the artists, have always been grateful for the fact that another one, Rigoberto Alfaro, nobody knew who they were, and now they're in demand. All the conferences across the country, they're asking him to come in and share that talent. But we started it in this country, and finally it did make Mexico to adopt mariachi music as one of their offerings, that they also came from Mexico. So,
Sure.
But it took that to get them to recognize the value and passion and love,
Yeah.
popularity of the music.
Yeah.
We recognized it first and promoted it and preserved it, and it was an amazing journey. We were one of us. We were probably the third conference that started, the second conference, first one in San Antonio and on down. And now it's from one end of the country to the other, from New York through all of California, offering classes and bringing in these icons that were ignored forever. Nobody knew who they were. So, and you got to sit with one for 2 or 3 hours.
My gosh, that was wonderful. And
Yes.
a one-on-one.
Yes.
Of course, I had to mortgage the house, but no, he was so generous with his time. But I did pick up a lot of things from him, no doubt about it. And is he still around as we speak?
He passed away.
He did.
Yeah,
That's
he
that's
passed
a
away
loss,
not
big
too
loss.
long, a couple of years ago. Yeah.
Sí, que lástima. But on the other hand here, tell us about that enormous path you chose way back in the day when you decided with UNM continuing education. Weren't you involved at the outset with something like that? Or?
Well, my journey actually started when I was very, very young in middle school in Deming, New Mexico.
That's what I want to hear, yeah.
Yeah, we lived there, and that's where I grew up. And my very first exposure to a live concert performance was by Antonio Aguilar.
Fíjate.
In our little town, no one ever came by. And one day when we heard that Antonio Aguilar was going to be at a theater as part of following a movie they showed of him in Silver City,
Oh, yeah.
I was about almost 9 months pregnant with my first child, which I am very sad to recall because I lost him.
Oh, that's right.
But we traveled all the way to Silver City, had to take my mom to make it all okay, and that back, and from a small town.
Sure.
We got there late. They almost didn't want to let us go in, but they did finally, and they had to sit us at the very, very front. And I'll never forget when they brought us in, sort of interrupted the concert a little bit,
Yeah.
and they sat us. Antonio Aguilar looked out and he says, "Ay, Chabela." That popular song, and I'll never forget that. But that was my very first live concert that I heard, and I fell in love with mariachi music. The next live concert I ever saw in our little town of Deming was Fats Domino, which I also loved, but it wasn't my passion, but I love oldies.
Yeah,
And then I came to Albuquerque back in the 70s, 1970, and my first show that I went to here in Albuquerque that lit a fire under me was one that, do you remember Esperanza de los Niños?
Sí, cómo no.
Val de la O
Yeah.
would produce a big show with all local talent.
Yes.
Every type of entertainment and talent was
Talent.
exhibited. They had dancers, he had singers, he had bands, he had trios, he had mariachi. I mean, everything. I was blown away. I thought, you know what? I'm going to do this stuff. I'm going to do it. I think we need to preserve it. It's valuable, and we need to make sure it stays up front in the audience and in the minds and in the hearts of people. So I started fundraising scholarship money through LULAC, the League of United Latin American Citizens. I was a member of a local chapter, And my very first fundraiser for a local talent was Roberto Griego, who to this day we're super close. We're like brother and sister.
I have to
love him
interview
dearly.
him. I have to interview him.
Yes, yes.
If he'll come.
Yeah.
Because he is. I remember him from, and he sings so well.
Yeah.
He really does. I mean.
Yeah, we were watching TV on a Saturday. It was Val de la O again.
Yeah.
The connection was there from both sides. Presented him, and he just came out with Un Pobre No Más, his first hit. I mean, it was huge. It still sells, outsells all his other recordings. And I saw him on my a cousin of mine was there, and I saw him, and we were like, wow, this guy had talent, and he was also very handsome. So I said, you know what? I'm going to book him. I am. And sure enough, I went to the Red Baron. I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
That was downtown. You do? Wow,
yeah.
we go way back.
Yeah, we do.
It was downtown. And I went and I booked him. That's how our journey started at the Far West. Remember the Far West?
Yeah, también. Fíjate. Wow. Well, that's a pretty good story on that behalf. That's for sure. On the stars that you helped along the way, for sure, with the exposure. Let's talk about the Spanish villages there and the ones that allowed me, Dios mío. But we'll do that in just a minute because we have to pay for the show, So,
okay.
We'll be right back after these words.
What do you mean your DJ canceled? Don't panic. Lessmans can help you. You can rent a sound system for your event at Lessmans Pro Audio and Lighting, and they can also show you how to use the sound system you rent. Don't forget, Lessmans also has film equipment, projectors, screens, plus much more. Make your event more memorable with Lessmans Pro Audio and Lighting. Visit Lessmans today at 5413 Lomas Northeast or online at lessmans.com or call 268-2111. That's 268-2111. Lessmans, mean gear.
We're back. That's right, we're back. Been having a lovely conversation if you've been with us, and you can play it over and over again and tell your friends about it, by the way, where you found us, like us. I like you too. But as we progress, we're going to have some great folks that I've met throughout the years, and today is one of them, top shelf. It's Noberta Fresquez. We've been talking with a lovely lady here that, oh my God, if you could only tap into her brain for just maybe 10 minutes, it'd take you days and days to disseminate what in the world you've been up to with such a beautiful creation of music in New Mexico. Thank you for all of that. I want to know about that. How isn't it like crazy when you're arranging let's say the Mariachi Spectacular that involves hundreds of people?
Yes.
And for the most part, the mariachis have to fly in. And how do you coordinate that, Noberta?
Well, I think it just takes a lot of years in the business and getting to know who the top artists are, the ones that have a longer and bigger history in terms of popularity and that people love. So I was very fortunate that I started with local mariachis and then regional mariachis, and then eventually I started working with and booking national, international groups. It was such an experience. It became like just something I worked out of my home. Now you can't get any artist calling them in their homes. You have to go through an agent or a company.
Sure.
And I was very fortunate when I started that I was able to call Lola Beltran at her home.
Oh my God.
Spend an hour visiting, calling Mariachi Vargas there. All of these people, I was just very fortunate that I came in at the right time.
And what happens in that setup, for example, once you say your small talk, so to speak, then it's time for business. You got to say, hey, we're having the fair again this year, or whatever you're going to promote. You start talking money. Is that your deal? And then
That's
how
my
we're going
deal.
to get you here. And that must be incredible. That's a pretty good negotiating skill.
It is because everybody, they don't have a rate card on what their fees are. They just charge according to how much they think that person
Is
or that
capable of paying,
event will bring in. So, you do have to. I think more than sharp as far as skills going in negotiating and booking and arriving at costs. I think more than that, they felt sorry for me.
So they gave you a break.
They thought this poor woman doesn't know that much. But we actually became really good friends. And they trusted me after their first time.
Yeah.
It's a matter of gaining trust and respect. And I think they knew my passion was pure and just music appreciation. And so I think that created a bond that I felt I had with the artists that I worked with, many of them, including Vicente Fernandez and Antonio Aguilar,
Yes.
who later I went on a tour with. I did his tour for 8 years, from one end of the country to the other. I was his front person and his PR person, and I think it was just a matter of trust. It's like when you're in sales, like when you were on TV, I'm sure if you had to sell something that your station had to offer, it's a matter of people believing you and trusting you. And I was blessed with that people believed me, And
Well, you can't fool people, really.
No.
By and large, you can't be dishonest all your life, and then for 10 minutes you're going to pretend. But
Yeah.
people read you. I'd read people. I mean, I'm not a spring chicken, but it's easy to read people if you're
Yes.
a hole all your life. You can't hide it.
Right.
But so anyway, the moral of the story is don't be an a-hole. No. But no, I am just thrilled that you're telling us some of your stories, and there are many, many. I want to know. I remember going to the concert at Tingley Coliseum where you had Lola Beltran and Linda Ronstadt together. Oh my God, was that a concert? Even though at the time I thought to myself, oh, I don't know about Linda being riding next to the Queen. But no, of course, she deserved next to Lola Beltran, La Reina. I used to love to say that. La Reina de la Canción Ranchera. Boy, she's so darn good.
Yes.
But anyway, I'll tell you about the visit I went to sometime other than now. This is your time. But she did invite me to her home, as I was saying, and went. Oh, my God, what a thrill that was. What a thrill. And she was our host or hostess for 2 days.
Yep.
Oh, my God. Took us to breakfast, took us to church.
Yes.
Oh, my God. Anyway, thank you. You introduced me to her. You see?
Yep. And I remember I called them that you were coming too. I called her and she says, "Oh, by all means." So I thought that was so nice. She trusted you from that.
She trusted
first
you?
visit.
Okay.
And no, and you too. She had met you, so that was
That was wonderful. Wonderful. Can you imagine? We went to church on a Sunday before we went to Las Lupitas to have lunch. But, ¿tienen hambre? Vamos a la misa.
I know what story you're going to tell about the salt.
Oh, yes. Mira, so we get to the restaurant y ahí, buenas tardes, Lolita, ¿cómo está? Bien, ¿cómo está tu mamá? Very beautiful. So she asks, do you have gordita? Sí, señora. So we sit down. Okay, so we're sitting there eating. And all of a sudden, she says to me from across the way, she says, pásame la sal. Pass me the salt. And I grab it and I do this. I just reach over and handing it to her. She almost went into a rage. Ponlai, she says. Probably
Set it down, yeah.
That's probably a little exaggeration, but and I thought, oh my God, did I just blow it here? Because I was trying to make an impression, and her daughter was there too, and I thought my etiquette is up, somewhere else, not here. So I put it down, scared to death. It was months before I finally caught up to her manager, and I can't remember his name.
It was her nephew at the time.
Yeah. And I asked him, oh, yeah, ¿sabes qué? At one time, I recounted the whole thing. What did I do wrong? Oh, no. This is just a superstition. If you grab it when they're handing it to you, bad luck.
Yeah.
So for all that time, I felt so guilty that, I did something horrendously bad for etiquette-wise.
That was a fun story.
Yeah.
But in all fairness, I have to tell you that when I booked Linda Ronstadt, I told her that Lola would be closing. And she had no problem. She says, as a matter of fact, I want you to put her in the best dressing room. Because Lola was her number one fan.
Wow.
She grew up a little bit like Anthony, just loving through her dad.
Yeah.
Canciones de mi padre.
Sí.
Loving Lola. So she said, no, if you have to just put up some curtains and create a little dressing room for me, I'm good. She said, I want her to have the best. And so I think it was Channel 7 that showed up for wanting an interview with Linda and Lola.
Sí.
And of course, Lola didn't know any English, so I had to interpret.
Sure.
And then Linda knew English, but she didn't know Spanish. And it was very interesting because I thought, how can she sing with no accent? She sounds pretty good.
Oh, yeah, I was impressed.
Yeah, and really. So I always remember her humbleness when it came to Lola. And I thought, So as we were nearing the end of it, I got calls and from different people that were concerned that if Lola closed after Linda's performance, because at that time Linda was hot.
Wow.
She had just come out with Canciones de Mi Padre.
Wow.
And the people were just, we got people there that didn't even know who Lola was, to tell you the truth.
Wow.
Yeah, and we sold out entirely 2 shows. So they kept saying, Noberta, give some thought to changing your order. Because I'm afraid that if you put Lola to close, a lot of people will leave after Linda's performance. People that are there for her.
Yeah.
And you don't want her to feel bad, Lola.
What a thing to have to decide.
I know, but in the end, I decided to
Yeah.
switch it, to switch Linda to close and Lola before her. And it worked out perfect. But I was like something I didn't want to do, and Linda didn't want to do it either. But then I convinced her. I said, this is the rationale behind it. So many things go on backstage behind the you just never know.
Well, I emceed a few of those shows,
Yes.
productions, and I thank you in advance for all the time.
I loved having you.
Well, it was such a lot. What I did is, I wasn't really a comedian per se, but some people would pass some jokes to me, and so I used the jokes as fill. Because the mariachi groups were changing in the background. I didn't want people to be bored as they
Well,
sat
you were
there.
more than an MC. You were an entertainer.
Well, the one I'll never forget that got like electrical. There were how many people fit, and this was at I think I told the joke in the same place, Tingley and at Sandia. Well, it was packed anyway. And so I said, as I started, I said, well, I was a kid, back in such and such, I said, and I used to sell my chile there in the plaza by the Santuario. And I said, every Sunday, here come all these tourists, and somewhere from Texas, somewhere in Colorado, I could tell the license plates. Well, there's one lady from Texas says to me, young man, and I looked over to her, and he says, yes, ma'am. I said, I was like, I don't know, 8 years old. Yes, ma'am. Well, how much are your chilies? I said, 50 cents for the bucket. I said, we understand y'all here in New Mexico have these delicious chamachingas. And I looked puzzled, and I said, chamachingas. Yes, can you tell us where to get chamachingas? And I said, well, yeah. I said, do take Highway 84 to Chama. They'll be glad to give you the chingas.
I remember that.
Remember that? That brought the house down almost every time. It was amazing. But anyway, that was fun about doing those shows. It was
yes.
Well, what I was going to tell you, and as you were saying, Murphy's Law, something's always apt to go wrong.
Yeah.
Well, one show we had, I remember, Ticketron or one of those places missold behind the speakers, behind the stage. You remember that?
Yes.
Oh,
Ticketmaster.
So people were pissed. Oh my God. And so we were going to, I don't know, you were saying you were going to get on their ass and say Ticketmaster screwed up, blah, 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 blah. And I said, let's bring it down a notch. Mm-hmm. And I went and I remember apologizing and we're going to fix it for you and everything's going to be good without blaming anybody. And I think that worked out. To me, no le di coraje a nadie.
Right.
Más o menos.
That's valuable.
And so everybody was good. But it was fun. Thank you for the opportunity on those
we had
concerts. It was a lot of fun. Let's talk about the as you're approaching the Mariachi Spectacular on that Saturday night. You have many events before that. I know your hands are in all of it just about. What about those, the classes, the from Wednesday, I believe, to Saturday? There are hundreds of students that come down to Albuquerque from all parts of the state and the country to take a lesson or two from the experts. Wow. Yes. How do you arrange that?
Well, my dream to do this event was basically to promote mariachi music into the elementary schools where kids would have an opportunity to learn how to play the music from all these maestros. So I decided it can't be just a concert like Hispanic Heritage, those shows that I would produce, like Antonio Aguilar's Mexican Rodeo that I toured with forever. I wanted it to be beyond that and teach people, make it an educational experience, like learning about arrangers and composers, not just the musicians that they're up front, the vocalists. We wanted it to be a whole experience for people in Albuquerque. The workshops that we started as part of the Mariachi Spectacular, they lend themselves to, we had to develop a curriculum that would be educational so that as students arrived, we brought in the best maestros, icons. Some are just lifelong musicians. Some are truly icons that contributed through arranging or composing. And we developed a curriculum that before we taught the song, we talked about who wrote it, composed it, who arranged it, put the music to it, and then who sang it, who provided the music for it. And so it was a real educational experience. You know, you hear a song, you know, the Linda Ronstadt, well, yeah, you give her a lot of credit. But who wrote it?
Who wrote it?
Who arranged it?
Yeah.
We wanted to educate people. We also wanted to educate people about the fact that a mariachi group has to have so many instruments. And when the instruments were added, because actually they started out, the whole history of mariachi started out as a trio quartet. And it slowly evolved and added, the trumpet was the last instrument they added.
Really?
The trumpet in the 50s. And the person that had contributed the first trumpet was one of our maestros, one of our icons that we brought to teach at our conference. So we used this conference to start with the children, because we had children, had adults, all ages come. You go to the beginning section, and you're likely to see a 70-year-old next to a 7-year-old learning a song with their little violin. And technique is also part of the education in the conference. You don't just pick up a violin or a guitarrón. There's a mano techniques, in other words, in English, on how to play each instrument. And it was so fulfilling, you know, so rewarding to be able to do that with kids, adults. And then we also taught them how to read music.
Oh, that's
a lot of these old musicians that have been playing for 50 years didn't know how to read a note of music.
By ear.
So even musicians would sign up for the conference.
There you go.
And they learned how to read music. They knew the history. They were part of the history, but they didn't know how to read music. It was all passed down by ear. So then we gave an opportunity at the showcase concert. That was the first part of Mariachi Spectacular. The second part was a showcase concert. And that was free because we wanted the families to come and support their children in the community and adults alike. So that was added at the showcase concert. And we made it a competition. So particularly Texas was really into competing. Their State Board of Education will fund their talents of male schools to go compete anywhere. Wow. They believe a lot in lots of trophies, but in the correct way.
Sure.
So that was a showcase concert. Then we had the Spectacular concert, where I had to bring in all the biggest groups in the country, and international, local, and from Mexico. So we brought the top of the line groups for the Spectacular concert. Yeah. Then on Sunday we had a mass, because it's so much a part of the mass, the music, the choir. And we taught that for people that wanted to learn it, not everybody. So it was composed of the conference, the showcase concert, the Spectacular concert, the mass, and the fifth thing was the Mariachi Plaza, where we had on Main Street, we had mariachi groups every few feet apart, and they're all playing different music. Wow. Sort of like a Plaza Garibaldi in Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
That was very popular. But we did stop that because the heat, the weather just didn't cooperate. It was starting to get really hot, like this global warming that we're having now. Yeah. So we stopped the plaza. It was right after the Mass, but we added a Hall of Fame. We wanted to recognize and bring forth people that had gone unnoticed and that made major contributions to the evolvement of the music. So we started a Hall of Fame, the first one that I think in the whole world of recognizing the musicians and the talent and the contributors and the icons. So that was really, it's still going on. We've honored and
I remember presenting some of those awards during the Spectacular. That was very nice, very nice.
Yes, yeah. No one had ever done it, so we did that, and then we added La Pasión, which was actually when we were on the grounds of University of New Mexico. It was their idea they proposed to us that they wanted to have an evening where we would teach just community people that wanted to come free, no charge, the history and what makes up a mariachi.
Yeah.
So we did.
Yeah.
And we're still doing it. And every year that stuck and it stayed, and so did the Hall of Fame.
Oh.
So we dropped one event within the event, but we added two. So it's been that way from the beginning. And there's people today, Nelson, that I run into. A good example is Robert Lucero. He's a very respected,
I know Robert, yeah.
well-known musician, attorney here and locally. And he was in high school. He was a 10th grader, I think, at Española High.
Fíjate.
For the first year when we had the first Mariachi Spectacular.
Wow.
And they competed in the first showcase concert.
Is that right?
And when he introduced himself, he said, I'll never forget, he says, we don't really know what we're doing here, but we're going to try. So they performed.
Sweet.
And they were wearing their band jackets because his father was the teacher, was the music teacher, but he added mariachi. So it spread to the schools. And the way we that was my dream, to start mariachi music in the schools.
Yeah.
The person I have to give credit to that helped me with the funding, because
Yeah.
you can't do anything
Yeah.
without funding, right?
Sure.
I mean, you can do some things.
Sure.
But I went to him, and I'm not a morning person, never have been.
Yeah.
So when I called him and I said, I really would like to talk to you about a proposal for some funding to start a mariachi program in the school system.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, well, the only time I can meet with you is if you can meet with me at 6:30 in the morning for breakfast. Lord have mercy.
You'll have to get up at 4 to get everything started.
But I did get up and I did go.
Oh, yeah.
And he presented it to the council, the city council. That was what it was. And he was a lobbyist for the city, and he got us our first funding to start the East San Jose Mariachi School program with 2nd, 3rd, and 4th graders.
Excellent.
It was a dream come true. It was wonderful.
It's so nice to hear those stories, really, Noberta. Thank you for sharing those. We're going to take another final break here, but coming up, we want to hear a very, I don't know what you want to call it, a story that'll move you, because it certainly moved all her friends. Noberta's going to talk about a life-death experience. So don't go away. We'll be right back.